reading from the 15th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Matthew. Jesus went away to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Just then a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But he did not answer her at all. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly.
My first thought was that this is a very uncomfortable reading. First of all, Jesus told the Canaanite woman that he couldn't help her daughter because he was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He then said that it wasn't fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. Was this Jesus speaking, we might ask? Don't we imagine Jesus as always loving? His words to the woman are harsh, to say the least. Why does Jesus ignore this woman's cries for help for her innocent daughter? Trying to understand what was going on in this passage, I looked at various commentaries and found a bewildering number of different thoughts. Some ignore the passage altogether. Others try and find ways to say that Jesus didn't really mean what he said. Then there seems to be quite a strong trend in progressive readings of this text to say that Jesus was fallible and racist. And there's those who highlight the gender issue, the fact that it was a woman who confronted Jesus in a world where women were of no account. So where to go next in this minefield of different opinions? One commentary, which seemed to me to make sense, put forward the suggestion that in order to understand this passage, it was essential to put it in the context of the time when it appeared, when it happened. In other words, in first century Israel. It also stated that it was important to know that the background of the story is the story of Israel in the Old Testament. If we'd been in Galilee 2,000 years ago, it wouldn't have come as any surprise that Jesus reacted to the Canaanite woman as he did. The Canaanites were ancient enemies of Israel. They were a constant military threat, but more importantly, they had a seductive influence on God's people, which caused the Israelites time and again to turn away from God and worship idols. Now, it can be hard for us to understand the attraction of idols, but before we scoff at the naivety of ancient people, perhaps we should consider that the worship of idols has a lot in common with our modern culture and its relationship to things like money, success, beauty, and security. Idolatry in ancient times promised prosperity and certainty in an uncertain world. So what's changed? We just worship different idols. The scriptures tell of how ancient Israel, the one nation who knew God, kept turning back to idols with a kind of national addiction. So no one, eyewitnesses to this event, or those hearing about it later, would have been in the least bit surprised at Jesus' response. His God-given mission was firstly to the Israelites, to bring back the lost sheep, those who had been attracted away from faith in their Creator to follow false gods. Jesus is very clear about this. In Matthew chapter 10, Jesus sends out the disciples and instructs them to go nowhere among the Gentiles and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The prophets foretold that God's Messiah was firstly for the Israelites, the chosen people. They would then act as a powerhouse to bring all nations into God's kingdom. After Jesus' death and resurrection, he gives the Great Commission for his disciples to go out to all nations. At the start of the reading, Jesus has gone to the area of Tyre and Sidon, an area teeming with people of all nationalities. We don't know why he's gone there. Perhaps it was to get away for a while from the relentless persecution of the Pharisees. In Mark's version of the event, Jesus went into a house and didn't want anyone to know he was there, but of course that didn't happen. A Canaanite woman accosted him, begging him to help her daughter. She wouldn't go away. She was insistent. She was shouting and pleading, and Jesus' disciples were pretty irritated. Send her away, say something, anything, just get rid of her. She was a big embarrassment. So now we come to the really difficult passage. First of all, Jesus didn't reply to her, and then he answered in what seems to us, looking at the event through our 21st century eyes, to be both dismissive and rude. It's not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Ouch. That seems unnecessarily hurtful. But if we think about it, Jesus' intention wasn't to hurt. Like his use of the term lost sheep, which isn't a flattering metaphor either, Jesus uses an evocative image to make his point. The word he used for dog wasn't, I found, the word commonly used for a street mongrel, but one used for a loved household pet. Both children and pets are part of the family, both objects of love and care, but there are priorities. Jesus seems to be saying that his mission was firstly to bring the Israelites back to a right relationship with God, then to spread God's message to the wider world, even to the people who for centuries had rejected God. The Canaanite woman doesn't take offense. She doesn't walk away. She says, "Yes, Lord." In other words, yes, I admit all that you're saying, but it's still right to share with me, because even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the table. She was only asking for the leftovers. Her humility is humbling. So is her faith. Jesus was amazed by her faith, and he granted her request. The reason he's so surprised is that he's rarely seen faith like it, either from some of the other religious leaders of the time or even from his own disciples. So Jesus listened. He listened and was moved by the woman's persistence, humility, and faith. Do we have the persistence, humility, and faith as shown by the Canaanite woman? Jesus, fully human as well as fully divine, was born into a particular culture at a particular time. And I think we can only understand this passage if we can read it, as far as we're able, through the eyes of a first century reader. And just to end on the issue of Jesus' fallibility and racism, surely the mentality that gives birth to racism is fear. We fear that there aren't enough resources to go round, not enough wealth, not enough love, not enough security. So we hoard and look for excuses not to share with others. We paint those unlike ourselves as undeserving villains and ourselves as deserving do-gooders. In fear, we tear others down to build ourselves up. That mentality results in worshipping idols, whether it's wooden idols ancient people bowed down to and propitiated by sacrifice, or modern materialism. But the fruit of true faith, which the Canaanite woman strikingly displayed, is complete confidence in God and the humility to take a seat anywhere in God's house, even under the table. Amen.